Hi, I'm Greg Dell here with attorney Stephen Jessup, and we're going to talk about reviews of Prudential Insurance Company and specifically Prudential disability claims. Steve, on our website we have a lot of reviews from Prudential claimants all over the country. Prudential is one of the, I think, top 3 largest group disability insurance companies, and we're lucky to have this website that allows claimants to put out their experiences of what it's been like to deal with Prudential. Whether it's good or bad, it tends to be more of bad experiences where people share their experiences, but these experiences educate people about what's really going on behind the scenes, and the more detailed people write, the more people can learn of things, what to watch out for, and things that they should be doing in their claims so that they don't get caught with the same potential bad experience of what those claimants were experiencing. From our perspective, though, we've seen thousands of Prudential disability claims, receive phone calls of thousands of claimants talking about what they're going through, and we always talk to people about it and share our experience, and then obviously represent those that we think we can help. But I want you to share in this video, both of us, about what it's like from our side that we think is a source of frustration for these claimants and things for them to kind of look out for so they don't want to necessarily post a negative review about Prudential, and most importantly, keep themselves being paid the benefits, because that's why they're watching our videos, and that's why they're even contacting us if they ever need us. So someone calls you, Steve, I've been denied Prudential, or I need help. What do you think about Prudential as a whole so that you know who the enemy or who the person is that you're going up against?
For Prudential, I think the most important thing is, especially if they've been denied, first thing that comes to my mind is your medical condition subject to a limitation? Because Prudential writes more 24-month limitations than any other insurance company in my experience into their policies. So they have some of the most restrictive language of what they'll cover and how long they'll cover it for. So anytime I hear Prudential, that's one of the first things that's always kind of registering with me is what the condition is, and are they trying to say you're subject to one of those conditions. I think the classic one is, I have a lot of back problems and stuff, but they say I only have a depression. I'm only depressed, so they're only going to cover me for depression. They're denying my claim and ignoring all my evidence on my back problem or my pain condition. So those are usually the calls, especially when Prudential's denied me. It's always what's kind of turning in my head.
On a high level, though, when someone calls you a Prudential and you're thinking, okay, there's 25 disability companies out there, and are you thinking like, this is like bottom of the barrel company, this is middle, this is the better one?
I would say mid-pack, maybe to leaning towards like above the middle of the pack. There's certainly other insurance companies that I just feel are so much more just a pain to deal with. There's some that every time I hear the name, I kind of just go, ugh. So I would say more mid-pack of it, not one of the worst. If I think about me personally in a given year, how many appeals I'm doing or lawsuits I'm doing, yes, they're up there, but definitely not to the extent of some other insurance companies. So, I think there's more adaptability. They do offer like voluntary appeal process and stuff that other carriers don't. So, it can be a mixed bag. Everything kind of really does come down to what your policy language is and, what the facts of the case are. So I don't get that, they're like one of the worst and I know this is probably what they're trying to do.
How about the complexity of the level of sophistication in their denial letters? You've reviewed thousands of them.
Their denial, I would say across the board better than some of the other companies, just giving you more detail. Like instead of just saying, hey, here's a list of stuff we looked at, kind of explaining why they disagree, how they reached out to doctors. Their denial letters are generally longer. I mean, there's a certain level number of those pages are going to be the form language requirements, policy, stuff like that. Prior to even coming in here, I was working on a Prudential appeal. The denial letter on that case was rather intensive and long. They were setting up the case for denial for a while, so the actual denial letter really set forth strong. Where you see some companies where they may just have, we had a doctor look at it and he thinks you can do X, Y, and Z so you can work. I feel like Prudential's denials will have more things that they've done to try to establish that you're capable of work. I feel like they do a more thorough review when denying.
Have you ever seen Prudential, when they go out and do a review, disagree with their own doctors that they've hired?
Well, the interesting thing with that is sometimes it's hard to tell, right? If they do end up eventually approving the claim, you're not going to have the rights of the policy. Now, you saying that, though, I did have a client some years ago where I worked on his appeal. They were fighting him tooth and nail during the appeal process, sent him to an independent medical examination. That IME doctor actually ended up diagnosing a condition that no one had prior to, right? And he was of the opinion that this particular client couldn't work. And it was vestibular issues. It was like vertigo-based type stuff. So a lot of subjectivity, they were arguing on it. I ended up, and this is the only time it happened, but it's always stuck with me because I discuss this with people I'm talking about going to IMEs, that the doctor wrote a report that said person can't, client couldn't work. He eventually, the IME doctor contacted me to let me know that Prudential's been trying to get him to change his opinion, and he's refusing to do it. And he wrote some very strong letters back to them. That claim ended up getting approved. Prudential pretty much left that client alone. And that client actually ended up using that IME doctor. He became a patient of the doctor. So I have seen it in a very specific, no question about it, where they did try to get an independent medical examiner to change their opinion to what they wanted, what their internal doctors wanted.
Right, but more in the norm, and that one the doctor disagreed. But when whatever the doctor finds, usually if the doctors they hire or their nurse says this person's not disabled, have you seen Prudential go with the weight of what the claimant's treating doctors are saying?
They don't give the benefit of the doubt, in my opinion.
And why are they allowed to do that?
Yeah, the law's pretty clear. Even in court, a judge doesn't have to give the weight of an opinion to your treating physicians over the insurance companies, right? So there's allowed to be a difference of opinion. Is there an inherent conflict of interest? 100%, but they are allowed. Is it right? Is it fair? No, but you do see that. Now, what always really upsets me is when they rely on, like, say, a nurse case manager, and they rely on the opinion of a nurse over the opinion of a treating doctor. Now, that's not to say that nurses aren't qualified, but if you provided information just from a nurse, they're going to have their doctor say, oh, I'm a doctor and I disagree, and they're going to run with that. So I think that's where it can get really egregious.
I think Prudential has a set, I talk about a lot these other companies, they're big and therefore they're disorganized, or they don't have the talent or the right way to do it, but Prudential's been doing it a long time, and from litigating against them and deposing them and seeing their internal claims handling manuals and things like that, they have a structure as to how they do things, and a lot of it's form letters, and a lot of it is very based upon benefit levels and getting supervisor approvals every month, and if it's another benefit level, you go to another supervisor, and then having an internal doctor or medical reviewer has to look at something. So they kind of have a system. A lot of companies do, but Prudential tends to stick to their system for better or worse in those situations, and then you get the same structure. Like every denial letter to me looks almost the same. It's the same structure, same layout.
It's like a form letter, change the name.
If it's 4 or 5 pages, there's a little clip there, and basically they've just cut and paste whatever their medical review doctor did. So while they are consistent, which is nice, I also find them one of the more easier companies to pick apart when it comes time to denial, because they're just acting like an assembly line of what they're doing, and they're just going to rubber stamp whoever they hire. And to the detriment of the claimant, they're ignoring good evidence that could often be provided by a claimant and just adopting this outside doctor. So when a claimant has the opportunity to do an appeal and hopefully hire a very good lawyer to do that for them, you can anticipate every single thing that Prudential did wrong, and then what they're going to do in the next level if you're experienced enough to know how to cut off all of the things that Prudential's going to try to say you don't have in your records. And so that takes a high level of skill from someone to put that in there. But once you know Prudential, like we do, you can put all the pegs in a hole relatively easily with them and get them to reverse. I find there's a higher level of success in reversing Prudential versus other companies on appeal, whereas some other companies I discussed earlier today in our studio.
You're going to be in litigation.
Yeah, you're like, it's not going to happen. And then even in litigation, there is somewhat of a level of reasonableness from upper level management with Prudential, more so than some other companies.
Definitely when it comes to mediations, discussing settlements during litigation, I would agree that Prudential is much more business-minded oriented and looking to get things done. And I probably don't have any stats back this up, but usually pay if we can value a case and think what an insurance company, or if this was a Hartford case, how much Hartford would pay on it, Prudential will generally, in my opinion, and my experience, put better money on a case to try to resolve it than some of the other insurance companies who are going to try to give you 10 cents on the dollar as a matter of course.
And it's hard to say, and everything we do is confidential with those things, but we have litigated extensively, gone to verdict across the country with Prudential. So there's also a level of respect that comes when they deal with our law firm, because they say, look, we know this firm's going to go the distance. We know it's going to be a high dollar battle. Let's see if we can reach a settlement. Obviously, it's up to the client, and a lot of cases are able to resolve, which is a positive. A lot of times it shouldn't reach that point, but it does occasionally reach there, and obviously that's what we do to help claimants. So, interesting, Prudential, you have them above the mid-grade in terms of a review, which I'm sure they'll take that as a compliment.
And people going to go, well, you don't know, but like we see all the insurance companies, some are absolutely abysmal. My experience with Prudential isn't as contentious, I would say, as some of the other carriers.
So, in hearing that there is hope for claimants when they call to say, look, you may be denied, but we can get it turned around, and if things aren't looking right, there may still be opportunities for you to steer the ship in the right direction to prevent you from getting denied. So these reviews are super helpful that claimants put there, and it's another mode other than the tons of videos we do about Prudential, or we write about cases that we've helped claimants to win, or we have summaries from lawsuits against Prudential, which happen all the time. It's all about the education of the claimant, and them also knowing that we're here also to help them in the event that they need it. So if you're someone out there with a Prudential disability claim, whether it's short-term or long-term, feel free to reach out to myself or Steven. No matter where you live in the country, we're available to assist you, and we look forward to discussing your Prudential disability claim with you.